Hey there, crew. Today we're going to be using a smaller white piece of paper and then any color larger piece of construction paper. It could be white, it could be whatever color you want. I'm going to use black today. And then I also need a pencil to start with. So we're going to draw a pumpkin first. So your pumpkin doesn't have to look like mine, but if you want some guidance and some help, you can kind of watch me draw a pumpkin because believe it or not, pumpkins are not perfect circles. They're all unique. So if you have a pumpkin at home, maybe you want to look at the pumpkins that you have, or you could look at a picture, or you could pause the books that I have read about Halloween and the fall season, and maybe you could look at one of the pumpkins on one of the books. Anyway, I always start with the stem. So actually, I'm looking at a pumpkin here in my classroom. I'm going to look at the stem. It starts up here toward the top of the paper. And this one kind of curves off to the left. So I'm looking at what I draw. Boom. And maybe I'll add some of those texture marks in there because the stem is kind of like a bark on a tree. It's pretty rough. Then I see a line that kind of goes down the center. It's sort of straight, not perfectly straight. Boom. And then I'm going to look and see all the curves of the pumpkin. It goes around and around, but it all stems from the stem. So it curves out and then boom. It goes back to that kind of center line. And it's curving out from the stem, around and around, until it kind of hits that center mark. And it even goes from behind and around because pumpkins are three-dimensional. They're these lumpy, bumpy forms that go around each side, kind of like that. And I'm almost hitting the edges and the top and the bottom of my paper. I'm going to outline it quick in black crayon. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I'm going to do it so it is easier for you to see. I got the texture marks, I got some of those rough and bumpy lines, and it's curving out and out and out. Boom. So really, pumpkin's kind of like a sculpture, a three-dimensional form. And every single one is unique. So once you have your pumpkin form, we're going to add some color to that. And we just learned about Pete Mondrian, and Mondrian's favorite colors are those primary colors, red, blue, and yellow. Rojo, azul, and amarillo. And we're going to try to just use those primary colors and experiment. We're going to be a little bit like scientists. We're going to see what those colors can make when you mix them up. So I'm going to start with a little rojo red, a little azul blue, and a little amarillo yellow. And you know what? First, I kind of want to see what these outside colors make when I mix them together. So I'm going to take a little red with a brush. I'm going to take a little yellow. I'm just going to see what happens when I mix them up. Ooh, it's changing a little bit. What if I add a little more yellow? It's starting to look like an orange pumpkin. Amazing. So the more yellow I add, the lighter that orange will become. Interesting. So I think, since I started with orange, I might as well paint my pumpkin orange too. So Mondrian red and Mondrian yellow, the primaries, can make a little orange. So I'm going to keep using those and maybe paint my pumpkin. So nice smooth strokes, no bad hair days, and I can even paint right over that black crayon and still see my outline. And if you want it lighter, you could add a little more yellow to it. So you can, now that you know that red and yellow can make orange, you can make it a light orange, you can make it a darker orange. So darker orange would just be more red, lighter orange would be more yellow. Nice smooth strokes, fill in your pumpkin. Boom. Now let's keep doing some more experimenting. That was pretty fun. So I'll let my pumpkin dry. Obviously I didn't finish it. You will finish yours. I'll let that dry over here. Now I kind of want to test some new colors. So what should I test next? Maybe I'll test a little red and a little blue. and I might make my background that color. We'll see what I get. So I use a little red, use a little blue. Whoa, it's making a pretty dark purple. It's kind of hard to see on the screen. Since it's hard to see, I might add a little white to it. I have a little white nearby just to lighten it up. If you want it to be light, add some white, I always say. Ooh, now you can tell that that is a nice violetta purple. Sweet. I'm going to use that purple, I think, for the background, and I want to add some texture. I want to make it a little more interesting. Texture is how it feels or looks like it would feel. So I'm going to be a little interesting. I have a little sponge, and actually, believe it or not, my sponge is purple. So my little sponge, I dipped in water, squeezed all the water out so it's squishy, but not soaking wet. And I'm going to use this sponge to paint with. Crazy. I mixed it with a brush. You could even mix it with your sponge if you want. I'm going to just load up my sponge with that red and blue, and I'll show you I'll mix a little with my sponge. I dipped in the red and the blue. Too much blue wouldn't make it purple enough. Ooh, I like that. So I'm going to go onto my black paper. Again, you can have any color paper you want. You might even want a purple paper. But I'm going to use the sponge to just kind of tap, and I'm even got some red and blue mixing right on my paper. I'll add a little more white to my mixture here so it's a little lighter purple for you to see on the screen. It's kind of tough. So I load up my sponge with paint, and I can just tap, 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 and that is adding some really cool texture to the background. I like that. I'll show you on the white paper too so you can see that. That texture is pretty awesome. I like it. So any color paper it's going to show up, but the lighter the paper, the easier it is to see. I chose black so it'd be kind of like a spooky Halloween night, perhaps. But again, if you want your paint to be light, add some white. So I might have purple in the background like in the sky, like a dark purple midnight sky. Boom. Well, we've tested red and blue and red and yellow. What's next? We could do a little yellow and blue and see what we get there. Maybe I'll change my brush. I'll wash it real quick or get a different one. I'll use some of my yellow here, and I'll just use a little blue to start. Oh my goodness, I'm getting verde green. So yellow and blue makes green. So really with the Mondrian colors, we can mix any other color we want. And then if we want them to be light, we could just add a little white. Maybe I'll do that. It's a little Michigan State action here. Green and white just makes a lighter green. So primary Mondrian colors, you can make all your other colors that you want on the color wheel. Boom. So maybe I'll use this green to get my stem. Green. Maybe I want some grass under my midnight sky, and I'm going to use my brush to create some texture again. I'm just going to do short little brush strokes. And these short little brush strokes kind of look like blades of grass to me. And I can layer them. I can make a darker green by adding more blue. So it's a darker green now, more blue. And I can layer. So I'm just doing little short strokes to look like grass. And when your brush gets dry, you just load it up with more paint. And some of your strokes might be a little longer blades of grass. And I'm just kind of going back and forth. So texture, those blades of grass make texture with my little short strokes. The sponge made texture for my interesting spooky sky. And then my curvy lines made texture too on my stem and that round form of a pumpkin. So once your purple and your green and your orange, your mixed up primary colors to make secondary colors, once those dry, you can do what's called a collage. And a collage is cut paper that's glued onto other paper. So combining two things. So I might cut out my pumpkin following those black lines I started with. And once your pumpkin is cut out, you can glue it to your background. So you can cut out your pumpkin. I'm going super fast. You want to take your time with your scissors and chomp like an alligator around those lines. Boom. And then of course you can use your scraps for another project, or you could, if they're just teeny tiny, they can go in the trash. And then you could glue your pumpkin onto your background with liquid glue if you want, or a glue stick. Boom. And then you could have your pumpkin sitting in the pumpkin patch. I want to really represent the fact that it's nighttime, so I might make a moon. And I found this circular lid that I think would make a perfect moon. So the moon could be a circle if it's a full moon, but if you've ever seen the moon where it's just like a half moon or a crescent moon, which is like a quarter moon even, or even smaller, it might look like that crescent shape. You could do either shape you want and print it with a lid like this. So if you find a circular lid, you can make a moon. If you want to print it with paint, you could also just draw it on with oil pastel, or you could paint it with a brush. But I kind of want to print it. I think that would be a little more exciting. So I'm going to use white. I'm also going to use a little yellow for a little bit of a glow. And I'm going to start with that crescent moon, or that almost a quarter moon shape. So it's going to almost look like a banana on my lid. So I might mix the yellow and white just a little bit to make a really light yellow. And if you want a crescent moon, it's kind of like a little dot at 12 o'clock on the clock and 6 o'clock on the clock. And then you curve. And I'm going to just dab the paint on, dab, 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 to make it nice and thick. And once you have the white on there, maybe I just add a few spots of yellow. That could make a cool effect. We'll see what it looks like. So I've kind of made that crescent moon shape, and I will print it on my background above my pumpkin. So I just press and hold a little bit, press it down, and lift. Pretty cool crescent moon right there, I must say. And now I'll show you what a full moon would look like. So I'm just going to fill the whole circle. Again, you probably only want one moon, but if you want more than one, I say go for it. It's your world, your artwork. You can have as many moons or planets or anything up in the sky that you want. So I'll show you a full moon and the crescent moon. So I'm just dabbing more white paint on. Maybe I'll do a few more circles of yellow. Some people say the moon's made of cheese. So I'll just make it a little Swiss cheese with some yellow circles there. Alright, now I'm going to press that full circle, that full moon, so you can see what that looks like. And voila. So a full moon, full circle. Crescent moon, kind of a semicircle or a banana shape up in the sky. But again, you can make as many moons or many planets as you want, because you're the boss, you're the artist. Then, once this all dries, I might use oil pastels to create more details. I might carve my pumpkin, so to speak, with oil pastels. So you could use Mondrian shapes that you learned, like a three-sided shape, which is a triangle, or you could use a four-sided shape like a rectangle or a square, or you could use that four-sided shape, that super shiny diamond. So you could use your Mondrian shapes to carve your pumpkin to make like a face, and you can use your Mondrian colors to mix to get your pumpkin orange and your grass green and your midnight sky purple. But I might just draw in some fun shapes. So a three-sided triangle, maybe a diamond eye. And you could express different emotions with your pumpkin. Maybe I have a circle nose. and you could have all sorts of different teeth and fill it in. So again, I'm using a crayon right now just to outline, and then I could fill it in darker with oil pastel, or even add some light highlights with white or a lighter orange in there. And I'll show you one that's done where I even added some trees and bats. And there's the texture grass. I even added a little shadow underneath the pumpkin, and this guy's winking at you too. So trick or treat style jack-o'-lantern there. And I chose a full moon, but again, you can do a crescent, a half moon, or whatever kind you want. You could even have a ghost in there. I used some white oil pastel to rub some fog or clouds. This bat's hanging upside down in the tree. But you could also make your pumpkin look like some of the characters in the stories that I read, so you might recognize some of these pumpkins from Pete the Cat's 5 Little Pumpkins. So if you want, you can make more than one pumpkin. You don't have to make just one. You could make 5 or 4 or 3 or 2 or 1 pirate pumpkin. It's up to you. So review this video, pause and rewind. I showed you how to make the form of the pumpkin first. Then I showed you how you can use Mondrian's favorite primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, to mix, like a scientist. Red and yellow makes orange. Red and blue makes purple. And blue and yellow makes green. And what do you use to make everything light? Add some white. And you can even print a moon. So I used a sponge, I used paint brushes, I used a circular lid, I used my scissors, I used my glue. You are a multi-talented and multimedia artist and champion. So you can read the stories, you can make your work as many pumpkins as you want, as many moons as you want, as many different colors as you want. And I cannot wait to see what you come up with. Adios, amigos, and happy Halloween.